Hello, and welcome back to another Pen Talk. Thank you very much for tuning in as I explore the amazing, incredible, unbelievable wide world of pens. And this year has been an amazing year. Every year seems to be amazing and seems to top the one before it. So you see rotating in front of you a pen worthy of being on a turntable. Mr. Crab saying, why am I not holding up the pen? Because I wanted a little bit more of an elegant pen holder for this elegant pen. And yes, it is certainly a very traditional Chinese design commemorating some of the Chinese history. And it does kind of look nice. It is very ornate. It is certainly not your everyday pen. We'll zoom in a little bit to show you some of the detail, and we're going to explore this pen as usual in much more detail, but watching it rotate is a good start. Stay tuned. So when you first pick up the pen, it does have some pretty good weight to it, spread across the entire pen, but this is the most ornate carving I've seen in a long time. I'm not certain of all the symbolisms of all the carvings related to the first emperor of China. There's some characters there below the clip. I don't know whether it's something I can translate or not, but the design continues. Every square millimeter of this pen is engraved with something. And this is one of the most ornate blind caps I've ever seen to activate a piston. And these three rings all have a different pattern to them. The cap comes off in 1 1/4 turns, which is nice. That pattern on the section works very, very well. It's not slippery at all. You do feel it's metal, but these threads are very dull, and there's a rounded step up, so you can hold it anywhere. But let's feast our eyes on the nib, because it is also ornately carved, but in a classic Hongdian style, and it's labeled F for fine. And it is a fine nib, there's no question about that, but it writes extremely well. The feed's a little bit different design than I'm used to seeing on Hongdian pens. It almost has like an ebonite look to it, but I don't think it is. It's a hefty pen and it feels good in the hand. It's balanced well. You may ask about posting, and obviously you don't need to post for the length of this pen in your hand. And it does post a little bit deeper than I expected, but that cap has significant weight to it. It does change the balance, so the balance ends up a little bit above the crook of your hand, which is not something I enjoy when I'm writing. But if you need to put the cap somewhere, you can put it at the end of the barrel, but I wouldn't. So you're watching the pen rotate as we discuss a little bit about the history behind who this pen commemorates: Chinese first emperor Qin Shi Huang. Here's some little history and bio on the gentleman. He did unify China for the first time, created a lot of the principles that pretty much still are around today, and was commemorated by those amazing clay soldiers that were buried a while ago. I can't equate any of the designs on this pen to the emperor. Maybe some of you can, as we dive into more details on the pen. Needless to say, it's a really nice pen, quite unique, and something I'm very happy to own. So one may ask about disassembly of this Hongdian. Well, I unscrewed the nib assembly, and that's as far as I'm going to go. And I flushed this, obviously, to make certain it's nice and clean. Really attractive looking nib, all gold. Your standard injection molded feed, but a little bit different design than I'm used to seeing with Hongdian pens. Since this pen also comes with a gold nib, maybe they put a different feed in there. A nice design here at the end with a good O-ring that's going to seal up when you put that nib assembly and screw it into the back of this section. If you just look at the barrel, it's interesting. Is this ebonite or not? I think it's plastic, but look at all the rings, or design rings there. Obviously the section doesn't unscrew, and I'm not going to try to unscrew it. But to me, the designs here are interesting, but not relevant to me. But the other thing is, you notice how small of a gap there, and this cap is all the way up, the blind cap. So to pull up the piston, you would turn it in this direction, and it brings up the piston, and it's basically not much over one turn. So this pen, based on my calculations, probably holds a mil at most, and maybe less than a mil of ink. With a large piston-filled pen, that's kind of on the small side. But this is a decorative commemorative pen, so ink capacity may not be what most people are looking for. I got the gold on black because I thought it would be more traditional look. I probably would have enjoyed the more matted dark colors of this model, but it's certainly ornate. You can get a little bit of sharpness though if you run your hands across it, but then sharpness makes it a nice distinct line. And again, I cannot use the word ornate too often in regards to describing this pen. Look at the nice little enamel inlay in that Aero Design clip, and they really just, I think, went over the top in what they did here. Hopefully I have a lot of light coming in, which lets you appreciate the detail on this pen. No model designation on the cap, as Hongdian sometimes can do. Yeah, we need to look inside the cap to see what they've done in there. And it appears it's just a straight plastic cap there. No little ledge that you normally see to seal up against the section, but it looks like it'll seal pretty good. Nice plastic threads there. Done okay. Could have been done a little better. So one thing that I think is interesting is the pattern. Those squares with little dots at their corners is replicated from the section to the barrel. I did Google image search and I can't find anything it relates to. It could be like an armor plating type of design where you got plates of metal that are riveted together to make like a, mail type of thing. But it's just interesting that that pattern was chosen and used in different parts of the pen. Wow, and looking at the pen, I noticed an ink window. Very small, very subtle, but there's two 180 degrees apart. I'm impressed. A nice little detail that had escaped my attention before I filled it. The question is it actually an ink window or not? Just the LED. Put it against that ink window. Nothing shows up on the other side, but it is full of ink. Yeah, I might have to empty it just to check it out. There it is. We've confirmed it's an ink window. A very small ink window, but I emptied ink out of the pen, and you can tell that that pine forest ink was last in there because it left a greenish blue tinge to that ink window. Voila. The other thing about this piston, which is a little bit different, is there's no flat spot on that piston assembly there, which you might use a particular small thin wrench to open it up. And there's no little indents that you might use some of those wrenches that work in that way. So maybe if you really used a lot of pressure and continued to turn this knob, the piston would unscrew, but I'm not going to do that. No reason for me to do that other than to satisfy some curiosity, which may end up having a pen that doesn't work quite right. So I'm more than happy just to try this pen the way it is received, and just let you know that cleaning, you'll have to use your syringe to flush out the inside of that barrel where the piston is. You go in there with a Q-tip and put some silicone grease if you want to lubricate it, but it moves okay now. And that's my assessment of that piston mechanism. It always pays to completely open up the bubble wrap that they put the pen in, because inside the bubble wrap was a Hongdian wrench, which looks like it might fit there, but it doesn't. It won't fit underneath of that blind cap. The blind cap just doesn't go up far enough. I looked at this many ways, and it looks like there could be a little notch in there underneath of that blind cap, but there's no way to get to it that I can see. Yeah, we have people doing our trees, and the dogs aren't happy. They're locked inside. So overall, still a mystery if you wanted to remove the piston, but I'm fine with it the way it is. So you know how I am with ink choices. This ink called out to me. I think it's an elegant color, nice and saturated. Here's where I wiped off the bottle and the nib after filling. Yeah, I filled it twice because I forgot to weigh it before and after inking. And based on weight, the pen takes 0.8 milliliters of ink. So pretty close to what I estimated when I was measuring the ink area. So I've been writing with this pen for a number of days now. I've emptied it and filled it a few times for various reasons, but always the same ink. And I do enjoy this Trommel ink in this pen. So it's a very consistent, fine line, definitely a fine line. The nib feels good on the paper. I haven't done any tuning or smoothing or anything right out of the box. Obviously, I flushed it before I inked it, but I always do that, as you should too. So like I said, I've been writing with this for a while now. A few letters have been written with it, not the full letter obviously, because I probably use average of about 6 or 7 pens per letter to give my reader some variety in inks and pens. Based on the writing and the way it feels in the hand, I like the pen much more than I expected to. So now it's time for that all-important, critical, editorial comments and dimensions. Here they are. So this is on the large side. It feels large. It feels substantial. It feels like a quality pen. I'm certain a number of people equate weight to quality, and this pen would certainly be good for them. I think the detail is really nice. And like I mentioned, it comes in a number of different colors. Here they are. Is there a color for you? The pen is not inexpensive, being close to $50 US, but it feels worth $50. There's no question about that. You know, detail, fit and finish, all these little bits and pieces fit together very well. It's definitely an amazing pen from Hongdian to maybe add to your collection. Let's do some final writing and finish this video. As you probably hear, the nib feels fine on paper. There's a little bit of feedback, but a fine nib, you expect some feedback. But it's certainly not excessive, and certainly not anything that I find not good for writing. So this is a good writer. Like I said, better than I expected. So hopefully you've enjoyed this view of an interesting pen. Certainly one commemorating a period of history in China that is quite interesting. Yes, those clay soldiers were from this emperor. Certainly a good-looking pen. Say no more. So I want to thank everyone for watching. I hope this video found all of you safe, healthy, and happy, enjoying your pens, finding a pen that you really, really like, that encourages you to put some ink down in whatever form appropriate for you at that time. Reach the end of this video, and we will say bye. Very consistent writer, definitely a great pen.